Margaret Lagunas is suing her former best friend, April Wilson, for the unpaid balance on a Ford Expedition. April claims Margaret did not live up to her part of the agreement, so she's not paying.
Order. All rise.
That's case number 374 on the calendar in the matter of Lagunas versus Wilson. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Lagunas, you sold a car to the defendant.
Yes, April Wilson.
And it is your claim that she failed to make all of the payments on the car?
Yes. She,
I didn't ask you a question.
Okay.
Miss Wilson, is the car in your name?
No.
In whose name is the car?
Maggie's.
Miss Lagunas?
Yes.
Where is the car located?
I have it parked at a friend's house.
Where is my question?
In Hammond.
Give me the address.
Michigan Avenue.
And what's the friend's name?
Amy.
Amy what?
Zacharias.
How long has the car been there?
Since September.
What is it doing there since September?
hiding it.
I'm not speaking to you.
I'm hiding it.
You're not hiding it anymore. What's
Right.
Miss Zacharias' phone number?
8122.
Have you driven the car since September?
No.
Is it in her garage?
Yes.
How much do you still owe the plaintiff on the car?
About $5,000.
Good. Is this Amy? Amy Zacharias, this is Judge Judy Sheindlin. How are you? Miss Zacharias, I have Miss Wilson here who tells me that you have a car parked in your garage that belongs to her. Is that correct? And how long has the car been parked there? Well, I want you to get as sure as you can because I'm sending a marshal over to pick up that car. Do you understand? Very good. The car does not belong to Miss Wilson. It belongs to someone else. And the marshal or the sheriff is going to come over and pick it up. I am advising you that if you move the car, I will advise the sheriff in your county that you have stolen property in your garage. Do you understand? Very good. Thank you very much. That's all.
Wow.
Yeah. You're going to go, listen to me very carefully. You're going to go outside and call the police department in your county. I've spoken to Miss Zacharias. The car is, in fact, in her garage. I have told her that the sheriff will be coming over to pick up the car. Then you're going to get your car back. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. Now we're going to talk about the money that you've put into the car and how long you've had it. Do you understand?
Yes.
You can't keep property that you haven't paid for. Do I make myself clear?
I understand that, but
Perfect.
the agreement wasn't made like that.
I don't care what the agreement was. You just told me that you owe $5,000
I
on
do,
the
but there
car.
was also an agreement that stuff was going to get fixed. The title was to be
And we
put
did
in my
fix
name.
Shut up. I don't want to hear. Don't interrupt her.
The title was to be put in my name with a lien on it. I could not do anything with this car. They consistently took the car from my house,
Your
followed
Honor,
me,
I don't want...
stalked
Listen
me.
to me. You interrupt her again, I'm throwing you out. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, if you complain and if you don't want this deal, then you return the car, but you don't get to keep the car
I
without
want
paying
the car.
for it.
I want the car.
That's too bad. At
We
this
had
point.
an agreement,
That's
and I
too...
put
Listen to me.
$4,000
Listen to me.
into it.
Listen to me. I'm going to get to the $4,000 you put into it, but you can't keep it for nothing. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. So she's going to get the car, and now I'm going to figure out how much of your $4,000 you're going to get back. Do you understand, Miss Lagunas?
Yes.
It's your car. The title is in your name.
And that's right.
I have just told Miss Zacharias she is to release the car to the sheriff. She understands that she's going to be in serious trouble if she doesn't do that.
Okay.
The car is yours. It hasn't been paid for. You are repossessing that car.
Yes.
Period. End of discussion. You got it?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, how many months did you have this car?
Since April. Maybe the end of March, April.
April, May, June, July, August, September, October, October and a half. 7.5 months.
Yes.
And you have put how much into the car? $4,000
Yes.
in payments?
And not on top of everything I had to fix, which they did not do.
Listen to me. Do you have a contract in writing that indicates what they're supposed to fix?
It was all verbal.
Fine. So you've put in $4,000 in payments for the car.
Yes.
She was supposed to give me a down payment of $3,000, pay $200 every 2 weeks.
I don't care.
Okay,
You're getting your car back.
that's right.
But she's getting something. I mean, she used this car for 7 months. She's not going to use it for 7 months without paying for it. If you rented a car for 7 months for $300 a month is $2,100. So you deduct, let's say she paid $4,000 into the car.
But she didn't pay $4,000. It was $3,850.
Fine. You have proof that you paid her $4,000?
No, it was a rough estimate.
Oh, well, rough estimate. She said $3,850?
That's correct.
Minus $2,100 equals 0, 5, 7, $1,750. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Perfect.
So I'm out of a car now?
Yes,
Out of
car
the
you
money?
didn't pay for.
Well, why did I pay $4,000 now to lose
Just
a
a
car?
second. You didn't pay $4,000
Well,
for a car.
$3,850.
What you paid for was the equivalent of a car rental for $300 of a very nice
I
Ford
paid for a
Expedition.
car.
You didn't pay for it.
I have my
Make
witness-
believe it's a bank. When was the last time you made a payment?
August.
That's too bad. You're out of
But
luck.
they didn't go
The
with
car
their
is
agreement.
The car is
They
just
didn't go with their agreement.
repossessed. Listen to me. The car is now repossessed. They are going to take the car because you can't drive around
I
in somebody's
paid up
property
to
yourself.
August.
To June.
Just a second. Look at me.
We had an agreement, and this is my truck that I would have paid for if they would have went with their agreement. I paid up
You
until
was not
August.
paying your payments.
They didn't
Miss
put the
Lagunas,
title in my
Miss
name.
Lagunas, listen to me.
Yes.
She secreted the car,
I know.
and she did not pay for it for 3 months. You are repossessing the car. She doesn't like it. It's tough. She didn't make the payments. She hid the car so that you couldn't repossess it.
They were following me, putting my kids in danger, harassing
No, Your
my
Honor, I have the
job.
911
Miss
tape.
Lagunas, I don't want to hear you unless I ask you a question. Do
Okay.
you understand?
Yes.
Otherwise, you're out of here without your truck, period. Do you understand?
Yes.
I'm not going to tell you again. Maybe if you dressed and covered your shoulders when you came to court, you would understand what court decorum is. Otherwise, be quiet unless I speak to you.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm treating it as if you rented her car. A bank would not do that for you.
bank?
Listen to me.
But-
Just be quiet.
And later today,
You have no relation to this case whatsoever. Zero. You have nothing to do with this case. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
Perfect.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Margaret Lagunas claims former friend April Wilson owes for an SUV that she is currently hiding from her. April is countersuing for harassment, claiming Margaret endangered the lives of her and her children.
Now, go buy yourself a new car. You're getting $1,000. You're getting $1,000.
$3,850 into it, plus the stuff I fixed.
Miss Wilson, I'm not going to bother with you anymore. You used her property, and you're getting back $1,750. I'm treating it as if you rented her car. A bank would not do that for you. Do you understand that?
A bank-
Listen to me. A bank would not do that for you.
But-
I'm treating...
Sorry.
Just be quiet. You didn't pay for it. It's being repossessed. You're getting back $1,750. Use it as a down payment for another car. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I put all this money into the car to now not have a car.
This is just the kind of person she is. She's done it to many other people.
And I get $1,750. Who's gonna buy a car for $1,750?
It's been a game since we gave it to her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Squire versus Sarah Serro, step forward, please.
Maureen Squire is suing her son, 19-year-old Matthew Sarasaro, for legal fees resulting from an ongoing court battle. Matthew says his mom won't let him see his 12-year-old sister.
All right, Miss Squire, you and your husband were divorced. You had 4 children. This is one of your children.
Yes, ma'am.
Oldest, youngest, in the middle?
Oldest.
And when you separated, which was in what year?
December of 2000.
When you separated, the children stayed with your husband. Is that correct?
Yes, they did.
And they remained with your husband until 2005, when you pursued custody of one of your children, your daughter. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And how old is that child?
She's 13.
And in 2005, she came to live with you.
Yes, she did.
Your first name is?
Matthew.
Matthew remained with his father?
Yes, ma'am.
And his other two siblings.
Marshall and Michael.
When Matthew turned 18, which must have been just recently, Matthew decided he wanted to pursue visitation with his sister. How long had it been since you saw your sister?
It'd been a year.
1 year?
1 year.
Had you tried to see her before that?
I had tried to email her. I had tried to call her.
How far do you live from your mother?
I really don't know where my mom lives, but I'd have to say more than a half an hour.
So you went to court to try to get visitation with your sister?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you try calling your mother?
I did.
What happened?
There's a call wave block on the phone, so every time you call, you have to give your name. There was a few times that I had called, and my mom would have been listening on the phone calls, so I did not feel that it was appropriate that she would listen on the phone calls between me and my sister. I didn't think that was needed.
Okay, so you went to court.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your lawsuit, Ms. Squire. Your lawsuit says that your son abused the court process by taking you to court, and he did several things which, according to you, prolonged the litigation. And then ultimately, when the matter was set for trial, he didn't appear.
Yes, that's true.
So you want him to pay you for damages and pain and suffering and whatever. You say first he went to court, which he has an absolute right to do. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
So A, he has a right to seek visitation with his sister. He should be seeing his sister. But if he's not, he wants a judge to say this is when you can see her. So he went to court. That's not an abusive process. We agree on that.
Yes.
What county do you live in?
Dutchess County.
And what county do you live in?
Dutchess County, ma'am.
According to your mother, you tried to get the matter transferred from one county to another.
No, ma'am. I had filed the paperwork, which I have here in Dutchess County. The reason that it might move to another county, which was Orange County, is because my father is cousins with a family court judge in Dutchess County. All the judges in Dutchess County recused themselves, and the case got moved to Orange County. I had asked the county clerk if we could have it heard in Dutchess County because it provided an inconvenience for me to drive 40 minutes from my household and
to
40 minutes
Orange
back.
County, and they said no.
They said no.
Now do you understand? One of the bases for your complaint that he abused you by abusing the court process, which you articulate here, is you say he tried to get the court county changed, but the judge denied that.
We went to court twice in front of Judge Reitz, and that is when Judge Reitz decided to let Judge Horowitz in Orange County handle the case.
Listen to me. First of all, you should both know that I know Judge Reitz. I don't think that makes any difference because I wouldn't do a favor for my grandmother if she was standing in front of me. What I'm trying to understand is the two of you live in Dutchess County.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
You both wanted the case heard in Dutchess County. He wouldn't want it heard in another county. I assume you wouldn't want it heard in another county.
No, I am satisfied that it's being heard in Orange County with Judge Horowitz because Judge Horowitz has been the judge on our case for the past 4 years.
Your
Oh,
Honor.
that, just a second. Put your hand down. Don't speak. Who are you?
The husband.
You have no relation to this case whatsoever. Zero. You're not the father of these 4 children?
No, ma'am.
You never stood in place of a father to him? You have nothing to do with this case. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
Perfect.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You got to grow up, not him. You created this situation with his father.
No, I
You
didn't.
did. Oh, madam, there isn't a question in my mind that you created this situation because they're children.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Maureen Squire says her son, 19-year-old Matthew Sarasaro, owes for legal fees resulting from an ongoing lawsuit. Matthew says his mom refuses to let him see his 12-year-old sister.
Now, the next complaint that you have, Miss Squire, he also requested a public defender.
Yes.
Perfect. I would too if I were 18 years old and not familiar with the court process. I would too like to have a lawyer help to represent me. And if I didn't have money, I would ask the court to assign a lawyer to represent me. Why is that abusing the process?
He claimed to be a full-time student at the time of this court proceeding,
Who
and I
cares
have
if he was a full-time student or not? He was 18 years old.
Well, that was his claim, that he was a full-time student.
I
and
don't care if he was a full-time student or a dropout. He was 18 years old. He should definitely have a lawyer to help represent him. I don't know whether you had a lawyer or not, but you're older and supposedly wiser. If he wanted the court to assign an attorney to him, that's his absolute right. And as far as I was concerned, if I were the family court judge sitting on that case, I would have assigned a panel attorney to represent him and charged the county.
Which was assigned to him, Your Honor. But
Perfect.
The issue is that he claimed to be a full-time student, and he was not. He withdrew from college.
So what? What was he doing?
I don't know.
Did he have money for a lawyer?
I don't know.
Did you have money for a lawyer?
Yes, I did.
Did you hire a lawyer?
I have the same attorney for the past 6 years.
Absolutely wonderful. He's 18. You're lucky you're not supporting him.
I was supporting him.
You're lucky you're
Your
not
Honor,
now.
She never takes child support.
Okay, then the next thing that you complain about, Ms. Squire, is that my attorney suggested at our May court date, all of these dates he appeared in, by the way, is that correct?
Up until June 15th.
Shh, just listen to me. I said so far, all of these dates he appeared in.
Yes.
Then in May, your attorney, who you've had for
6 years.
6 years. Did you have an attorney in May?
No, ma'am. I've never had an attorney.
Shh. Just answer. Your lawyer spoke to him, and I assume the judge's court clerk and the judge, because I know the way that things go, and your attorney suggested, according to your complaint, at our May court date, because the matter was adjourned to May, that he could have supervised visitation with my daughter, provided her counselor was present. Matthew refused this solution.
Yes, he did.
Which is his absolute right. Just because your lawyer suggested it to him doesn't mean he has to agree. Just because your lawyer says, listen, I have a solution. You can see your sister as long as it's supervised by her counselor. He says, I don't want that. I want to go to trial. He's entitled to do that. So I'm crossing that out. My attorney suggested we have supervised visits, and Matthew refused this solution. So a trial date was set in June. When the trial date rolled around, I hired an expert witness and, of course, had my attorney, who you've had for 6 years, not with regard to a case involving him.
Yes.
He could not have had a case with you 6 years ago, madam. 6 years ago, he was 12.
He was also a part of a custody agreement with my ex-husband.
If you had to listen to me, Miss Squire, you had a lawyer with regard to a case involving your ex-husband.
And my children also had a law
He was
guardian.
not a party to that proceeding 6 years ago.
Okay.
But when that June date came around, Matthew did not show up.
No, he did not.
And that's what you're complaining about. And that's what you think shows an abusive process.
Yes, I do.
It doesn't.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Are you in a family dispute? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Listen, you have no case, Miss Squire.
I have transcripts of the court.
Listen to me. You have no case. Your son did not abuse the process of the court. Your son asked for only things that were reasonable, that anybody would have asked for in his circumstance.
And he never once called me to ask to speak to his sister, to see his sister. We live 7 miles apart.
Miss Squire, if you were served with these papers, then you're the mother. You're the mother who left her children.
I didn't leave my children.
Yes,
I left
you did.
my husband.
7 years ago.
I left
you
my husband.
left your children with your husband 7 years ago. And as far as I'm concerned, the mother would have picked up the phone and called and said, Matt, you want to see your sister, sweetheart? See her. Come over and see her. I'll meet you at McDonald's. Her stepfather will bring her.
Matthew wanted it. Matthew wanted to take her on his own and fill her head with stories about her father and the situation between us.
Listen, Miss Squire, that's your problem. That's in your head. That's why your son doesn't talk to you. That's not his problem. You're the grown-up. You got to grow up, not him. He's 18. You created this situation with his father.
No, I
You
didn't.
did. Oh, madam, there isn't a question in my mind that you created this situation because they're children. So the two adults who brought them into the world created the situation. You're supposed to fix it,
And the adult
not
who
make
they
it
were
worse
living
by
with
suing him.
filled their
Madam,
head with-
your case is dismissed. It's nonsense.
Just took 15 minutes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge, Carrie Kennedy is suing her ex-husband, Kevin Kennedy, for joint bills not settled by their divorce agreement. Kevin says that Carrie walked out on him and their children.
Order. All rise.
That's case number 398 on the calendar in the matter of Kennedy versus Kennedy.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
How old are you?
13?
Is your mother?
Yes.
And your father?
Yes.
You can wait outside. Mrs. Kennedy, this is your former husband, and it is your claim that he owes you some money for some bills that came up after your divorce papers had been filed and therefore were not resolved in the judgment of divorce. That's correct. That's pretty much your claim. Your husband says that these bills that you're asking for are petty, that he took care of the home and the children for 4 months after you left with absolutely no support from you, and the least you could do is pay for the electric.
That's correct.
When did the two of you separate?
We separated in August of 2005.
And I gather from what Mr. Kennedy says that you left the home.
I didn't leave the home until the sale of the home, which was in April of 2006.
In August 2005, were you living together?
Yes.
In September of 2005, were you living together?
Correct.
Mr. Kennedy, you said your wife left. When did she leave?
April 2006.
When she left in April of 2006, where were the children?
With me.
For how long?
Until July, I believe it was 19th of 2006.
And where were you?
I had moved to a different residence approximately 4 blocks away with my 2 oldest children from a previous relationship.
And you were there with 4 children?
3.
3. How old were they?
Now they're 13, 9, and 7.
And who do they live with now?
They live with Carrie now.
Is that by agreement?
Yes.
And you pay child support?
I do.
How much?
Roughly $600 a month.
Is that correct?
That is correct. However, Your Honor, he wasn't paying child support until ordered by a judge and until his wages were garnished. For almost a year and a half, he did not pay child support.
Is that right, sir?
Correct. I wasn't working at the time.
I don't care. That's irrelevant to me. And I'm sure it was irrelevant to the court that you weren't working. Why weren't you working?
I guess I just couldn't find a job.
When you have 3 children, you find a job. You're an intelligent man, you know that. Okay, so then I'm less sympathetic with you, Mr. Kennedy. You see, I was getting sympathetic because if Mrs. Kennedy leaves and she leaves you with 3 children and she sends you no child support, I sort of feel as if $1,100 is pennies under those circumstances. But if you didn't pay any child support for over a year because you decided not to work, that's a lot longer than 3.5 months.
Correct, but I would pick up the children throughout the week, provide for them what I could. When I had a job, I'd give her half of whatever I made.
And you mean at the times when you weren't providing them with support and she was taking care of 5 children, she was supposed to say to the kids, we're not eating lunch today because Dad's not working and whatever I do. Do you work?
I do work, Your Honor.
What kind of work do you do?
I work for a promotions department. I organize events through the county.
Same job for how long?
Almost a year and a half.
Okay. When you left in April of 2006, according to your complaint, he was supposed to take the electric bill out of your name.
Correct.
Is that your agreement?
That is correct.
Well, that's what she's stuck with. She's stuck with that bill. That's what she's asking you for.
Initially, it was supposed to come to me, and I had contacted the electric company, told them I'd have to make payments on that. That wasn't good enough for them, so they decided to tack it onto her bill at her new house.
So then you owe, just a second, so you owe her that money. How much does he owe you for the electric bill?
$699.99, and that's not exactly how it went. He stayed in the house that we once shared, rented it from the new owner, couldn't continue paying the rent on it, and left. Moved in with a friend, left no forwarding address, and to my understanding made no contact to the electric company to get the bill resolved. And that's how it got transferred to me.
Fine, $699.99. It's yours. Let's go on to the income taxes, which is a far more interesting subject. Go ahead.
Income taxes, these are from the year of 2003 when Kevin was employed full-time and I was the stay-at-home mom. Apparently when he was unemployed after we separated, I don't know if the state of California had tried to make contact with him, but they couldn't find him. They found me because I was working.
Can I see the tax bill? You know about this tax bill, Mr. Kennedy?
Through my ex-wife, I do.
And?
When I moved from the house that we shared, I forwarded I had all my mail forwarded.
I'm not talking about the forwarding mail. I'm talking about this tax bill. It was money that clearly you were working full-time, correct?
Correct.
She was not employed outside of the home.
When we were together, no.
Did you owe child support for other children?
No.
A record show an outstanding child support obligation that has priority over your personal income tax liability.
Your Honor, I believe that's for the current child support he's owing back.
I see. The balance due here is $342.55. Did you pay it?
It's being garnished from my wages.
Show this to him, please. Have you ever seen that document?
I haven't read it. I just heard about it from her.
And he was given that information. He said he tried to make contact with them, but was on hold for too long.
I had my mail forwarded to a P.O. box. If they wanted to find me, they could have found me.
Maybe they did find you. Maybe you took it and threw it in the garbage. How do I know? It's your responsibility. Why didn't you pay it?
Because I didn't have the $300 and some to pay her.
Well, who are you living with now?
I live with some friends.
That's not a good enough answer for me. Who do you live with now? The names of the people that you live with.
Joshua and Tina. I think their last name is something like that.
How long have you lived with them?
4 months.
Are they a couple?
Yes. You could. Yeah.
You know, why bother to get into it with you? You owe her $1,100. Mr. Kennedy, When you have 3 children, you can't afford to be unemployed unless you are mentally or physically unable to work, neither of which appears to be so in your case. So you have 3 children, you have to do whatever you can do. You get a hack license, you drive a cab, you pick up cans, you go to work for the Parks Department. You can't take the day off.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Since July of 2006, he's lived with 5 different people.
Sounds as if he's not doing too well.
He's not, Your Honor.
And later today,
They signed the lease.
They
You have
signed
the
a
lease?
lease that I was not aware of.
What difference does it make? That was your agreement with her. She's not your mother. Why would she make your mortgage payment? Thick.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy, Carrie Kennedy says her ex-husband, Kevin Kennedy, owes for an electric bill, a cell phone bill, and for taxes from the state.
Okay. Now, did you get half the money from the house that was sold?
I did.
How much did you get?
I believe it was $32,000 or $36,000.
And how much did you get?
Approximately 20.
20.
That's incorrect, Your Honor. It was split right down the middle. You got half, I got half.
Why would she get more than you?
I agreed to give her more than I got because she was moving into a new place. And she complained to me that splitting it right down the middle wouldn't be fair to her.
Does that sound right?
He would not allow me to take anything out of the home that we had in the house, except for any personal items. He kept the refrigerators, the computers, TVs, everything else. I didn't get any of that until I took possession of the children in July of 2006 because he had nowhere to move and had to move in with his girlfriend. Since July of 2006, he's lived with, I'm approximating 5 different people.
Sounds as if he's not doing too well.
He's not, Your Honor, and it's just incredibly sad that my oldest daughter has had to move back home with me to help me pay the bills.
Judge for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This money has been long owed to me, and I'm just glad it's done and over with.
I just hope there's no other bills that pop up that I have to be taken to court for.
I think this is going to be a never-ending battle.
I'm just ready to go home.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Edwards. Step forward.
Real estate agent Chavez Smith is suing her former friend and client, Erica Edwards, for a loan to pay her mortgage payments.
All right, well, this is one of those little complicated cases that Bert and I are going to try to figure out together. Miss Smith, you and Miss Edwards were friends. By the way, are you a licensed realtor?
Yes, I am.
In what state?
California.
According to your complaint, Miss Edwards wanted to sell her home.
Yes.
And you had initially found a buyer, but that deal fell through.
Yes, ma'am.
So you and Miss Edwards entered into this rather convoluted arrangement.
Yes.
Whereby you would make the mortgage payments on her home.
Yes.
While you were trying to find a purchaser.
Yes.
You might also rent the house while you were looking for a purchaser.
Yes.
And Miss Edwards would be out from under the problem of the mortgage, and she could go and live elsewhere. So far, is that about right?
Yes.
Yes.
She did move out of the house, and it is your claim that you made, I believe, 4 mortgage payments for her.
Yes.
She owes you that money.
Yes.
Miss Edwards says that she found out that you had, in fact, rented the house, didn't tell her that you had rented the house, collected money from the new tenant, did not pay the mortgage on time, thereby ruining her credit. She is counterclaiming for ruining her credit and for the money that you got from renting her house. When did you move out of your house, Miss Edwards?
I moved out May the 29th.
When was the first mortgage payment due?
May the 1st.
Is that the mortgage payment she was supposed to make?
Correct.
But you were living in the house the entire month of May.
She gave me the okay to take that money to put a deposit down on the apartment while she put tenants into the house.
Is that right?
Yes,
So you were supposed to make May's payment?
Yes.
And it's due on May the 1st?
Correct.
Did you make May's payment?
Yes, I did.
When?
June 8th.
Well, that's late.
Yes.
That's unacceptable. You understand that?
No, because I didn't tell her that the payment would be made on time. I was helping her.
No, Miss
I was
Smith.
helping her out
Miss
of a
Smith,
situation.
I read that in your answer to her counterclaim. And you said, well, I told her that I was going to make the payments, but I never said I would make the payments on time. It is presumed in the law that if you agree to take over the mortgage payment, it's understood. The same way it's understood if you say, I'll take over the mortgage payments, that you don't pay them in rupees or yen. You pay them in U.S. dollars. You don't have to write it out that you're going to pay them in U.S. dollars. You say, I'm going to take over the mortgage payments, and they will be paid, and they will be paid on time. You don't have to write on time.
But, Your Honor, we didn't come to that agreement until after she had moved out May 29th.
So you're saying you didn't come to the agreement to make the mortgage payment for May 1st.
Until it was already late.
Until it was, I see that. Is that correct?
That is not correct, Your Honor. We made this agreement the beginning of May.
When the beginning of May?
Around May 1st, because there's a grace period for the mortgage up until the 15th. And Ms. Smith agreed to go ahead and use my mortgage money for that month to put a deposit down on the apartment where I was moving to.
That's not correct.
No, I believe you.
That's not
just a
correct.
second. I believe you, and I don't believe her. That she did not pay May 1st's mortgage payment on time, and you did not come to an agreement with her about this until after the mortgage payment for May was late. But then you had an agreement.
Yes.
So June 1st, you should have paid June's mortgage.
No, I paid June's mortgage on June 20th because I paid May's mortgage June 8th, so I paid June's mortgage June 20th.
And July?
And July, I paid July and August late.
When did you make the payments?
I made the payment both in September.
Well, that's unacceptable, Ms. Smith. That's unacceptable. So she has a legitimate gripe if she had reasonable credit, and I don't know if she did, and she said that this destroyed her credit, that you made these mortgage payments late. She has legitimate beef. How much were the mortgage payments you made for her?
It was $1896.41 times 4.
Just a second. 18.
96 and 41 cents.
7584. Okay. Now, you put a tenant into the house.
Yes, I did.
When?
They moved in June, but their payment wasn't good until July.
Why?
Well, the house was vacant, and they were in a situation to where they didn't have anywhere to go. So I allowed them to move in June and pay me for July.
How much did they pay you?
$1,450.
How much in total did you receive from these tenants?
I received $2,900 from the tenants.
The tenants also gave her a $1,000 deposit.
Did you add that in?
Yeah. Oh, no. They gave a $1,000 deposit, which was refunded to them.
Okay. I am deducting the amount she was paid by the tenants. Do you understand?
Yes.
Show me your credit score before June and show it to me after.
I wasn't able to get the credit score after, but I do have it before June.
Well, you have to show me both. How do I know that you were damaged? That's your counterclaim, that your credit score was damaged because your mortgage was paid late. Isn't that your counterclaim?
Yes.
Well, how am I supposed to see that? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if she paid your mortgage late and you could show damages as a result of paying the mortgage late, I would give you a certain amount to compensate you for that bad credit, but you can't prove that to me. Okay. Is there any reason why you don't owe her for these mortgage payments, $4,684? When did you move back into the house?
September the 15th.
She never moved back in.
September the 15th, the tenants moved out.
But she never moved in.
Who did?
Nobody. She left the house vacant until she just recently sold it a couple months ago. So
I moved back to the house.
Just a second. Hold it. Did you move back to the house?
Yes, I did.
In September?
September the 15th, when the tenants moved out.
And when did you sell the house?
September the 19th, 07.
So you sold the house 4 days later?
Yes. I didn't move my stuff. My stuff was in storage. I was there at the house.
Don't play with me. Will you please?
I'm not.
So you're playing with me. How much did you sell the house for?
$394,000.
How much did you pay for it?
$125,000.
Why didn't you give her the mortgage payments that she laid out for you?
What mortgage payments?
The mortgage payments that she paid for you.
The tenants that were there gave her the money for her to pay the mortgage.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
Show me that.
They're her friends. They were friends of hers.
Just a second. Show me that.
They were friends
Bring
of hers.
a witness.
And they did not want to be involved.
Listen to me.
These are friends that she moved into the house.
Listen to me, my dear. She made mortgage payments totaling almost $8,000. According to her, she got rent for a 2-month period, which I have deducted $1,450. Were they month-to-month tenants, or did they sign a lease?
They signed a lease.
They signed a lease that I was not aware of.
What difference does it make? That was your agreement with her. She's not your mother. Why would she make your mortgage payment? Your agreement was she was going to rent the house. She was going to make the mortgage payment until such time the house... I'm speaking. Thick. Until such time as the house could be sold, then she would recoup her money and everybody would be happy. I mean, what do you think? This is a windfall? You think you get somebody else to pay your mortgage, you make $200,000 on the house, and you don't have to pay it back? What are you, an idiot?
No, I'm not.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $46.84. That's all. Step out. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Business, friendship, and family really don't mix.
I guess the moral to all this is don't get business mixed with friendship.
At the end of the day, if somebody's trying to help you out as a friend, you would think that you would at least try to uphold your end of the bargain.
Be wiser and know what type of people you're dealing with.
I hate that it came to this.
We haven't talked since last year.
Sometimes people in your life are for a reason or a season, and I guess this was just a reason. I help her transition to wherever she needs to be, and I'll move forward.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of parent versus parent. Step forward, please.
Sonny Parent is suing his ex-wife, Stephanie Parent, for the return of a laptop computer. Stephanie says that Sonny needs to move on.
You two folks had a short-term marriage, and from what I gather, a relatively amicable divorce. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
Did you have lawyers?
No.
No.
Did you use the court system?
Yes.
Yes.
Filed papers?
Yes.
Clerks had to read the papers?
Correct.
Judge had to read the papers? Judge's law secretary had to read the papers before you were granted the divorce? So you gobbled up your share of the justice system, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
You're not going to gobble up any more time over nonsense. This is what this case is about. While you were married, there was a computer purchased.
Correct.
You say it was purchased for your business. She says it was purchased as a gift for her. I don't care. He doesn't care. You have two different versions of how she got her hands on the computer. You say she borrowed it. She says you borrowed it. I don't care. He doesn't care. How much was the computer?
$699.
When was it purchased?
In July, I do believe.
July 13th, 2006.
Yes.
So this $700 computer is now maybe worth $400. Who has the computer?
I do.
Do you want the computer or do you want to pay him $200?
I'll take the computer and pay him $200.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused.
Brian Russell is suing his ex-girlfriend, Patty Haig, for stealing his personal belongings and for taking his money while he was in jail.
Order. All rise.
Now it's case number 475 on the calendar in the matter of Russell versus Haig.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Why don't you folks have a seat, huh?
Ah, Mr. Russell, this is your complaint, sir. You met the defendant, and shortly after you met her, according to you, you found out that you were going to be incarcerated for a period of time. How long?
6 months, Your Honor.
And was that violation of probation? What was it for?
That was for a DUI.
Clearly not your first.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you and the defendant made up the following agreement. While you were incarcerated, the defendant was going to clean up your house where you had lived with your son. I assume this is the son.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the house is probably not fit for human beings with two men living there and not taking care of it. I assume that you knew that, and you told her that if she cleaned up the house and made it ready for renting, that when you got out of prison, you would move in with her and rent the house so that you would have some additional income. So far, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
The son was living in your house.
Yes.
The defendant and her daughter came to live in your house, and she did what she agreed to do, which was put your house in condition to be rented. Tell me what you did to get the house ready.
Your Honor, you're absolutely right. This house was a complete disaster. I had to have everything done to it. I had to have carpet cleaning. I had to have a maid come in and help clean the walls, the bathrooms. I had to have it painted.
How much of the house was painted?
The living rooms and the boys' bedroom.
Who paid for that?
The kitchen. I did.
Who paid for the renting of the dumpster and all that
I
other
did.
stuff?
I have all the receipts right here.
Okay. And that has nothing to do with your labor?
Nothing to do with my labor.
Then you started to have problems with Mr. Russell's son. What kind of problems did you have?
He was doing very bad in school. He was getting D's and F's. Ditching.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Stealing things, stealing cell phones, stealing money.
From whom?
People at the school, I guess. I assume his friends.
Jan down. Okay, so he was having some trouble. All right, so this is what happened, Mr. Russell. The defendant said, I can't deal with this. And he went to live with whom?
My grandparents.
You told Ms. Haig that this wasn't going to work out, that because she couldn't live with your son, you couldn't live with her, and that she would have to move back to her house, and you weren't going to rent your house because you were going to have to move back into your house with your son when you got out of jail. So far correct?
Somewhat correct, yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Haig left, and it is your claim that she wrote out 2 checks from your checkbook without your permission,
Correct.
and you want that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defendant says, whatever checks I wrote out with your permission. I used them to cover certain expenses that I had. So let us assume, Mr. Russell, that Ms. Haig has bills in order to put your house in order. Did you compensate her for that?
Yes, Your Honor, somewhat
How?
I did.
Not somewhat. Did
okay,
you
yes.
give her $3,000?
Not the whole $3,000, but close to it before I went in.
How much?
I gave her approximately $2,000 cash, bought her a new garage door, which she needed, and a trailer hitch of hers to be installed in my truck to haul her trailer to my house, which she said she would leave into my truck if I paid that money, which she decided not to do.
So what you're telling me is, forgetting all the other fluff, you gave her $2,000 in cash.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did he give you $2,000 in cash?
Approximately $2,000, I would say.
Okay. Tell me how much she wrote out of your checking account with the
She wrote 2 checks for $5,450. There was 2 checks, one for $4,800 and one for $650.
Did you give her permission to write out either one of those checks?
No, I did not. I asked her to mail me a blank check, and I would fill it out and give it back to her, which I've got
For
proof.
what?
For approximately $600, $700 for her efforts, just so we can call it even and depart on good terms.
Mr. Russell, you're making a few things up as we go along, sir. The way you said that to me, just for her efforts. What efforts are you talking about?
Her hauling stuff to the dump. She claimed cleaning the house, painting it.
Well, that's a big job, sir. How long did that take her to do?
I'm not really sure. She had one of my friends helping her do it at no cost.
Well, that's good. How long did it take you to put the house in order?
Over 2 months.
Was she there 2 months?
I don't believe she was living at my house because I was calling her when I was in jail at her house, and she was answering. So she was living at her house, but going to my house to do work.
Okay, so that would be the $650.
Approximately, yes. I was going to write her a check for it, but she decided to do it herself.
Okay. Now, you wrote one check for $4,800. What was that for?
The $4,800 he asked me to write because he was trying to get out of jail in a half time, and he wanted to say he had hardship. He needed to get out and support us, and he wasn't allowed to have any money in his bank. So I sent him a blank check, and the jail would not allow him to have it, and he told me to cash it and get the money out of his bank.
So then what did you do with it?
I kept $2,800, and I put $2,000 in his
What did you do
safe.
with the $2,800?
Paid my bills.
Oh, well, then you owe him that. You can't have it both ways. Do you understand? If he gave you $2,000 in cash and you took $2,800 to satisfy those bills, you can't have it twice. You following me?
Yes.
Good. Did she give you any money?
No, Your Honor, she didn't give me anything back.
Where did you put the money?
In his safe, inside his trailer. And I took his trailer, all his stuff back over to his house, and I gave the keys to his parents.
Your Honor, it's a little firebox with a broken lock. Doesn't even work.
It's not
a
little.
safe. It's very small, 1 foot by 1 foot, and there was nothing in it but my birth certificate and my son's birth certificate. The trailer wasn't broken into. It was all locked up. She didn't put anything back.
Right. I believe that. I believe she didn't put anything back. You want to know why she didn't put anything back? She didn't put anything back because she was very angry with you.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I understand that she was angry, but she can't steal your money.
Also,
I didn't steal his money. Your
Yes,
Honor.
you did.
No.
Also, in cleaning
Sure
up
you
my
did.
house, she threw away many things which she didn't have permission to throw away.
Well, that's your problem. You should have been more specific. You should have put red dots on everything that you wanted to keep. You told her to clean up your mess, and she cleaned up your mess.
The whole
Shouldn't
house
such
should have
a
been
mess.
thrown in the dump.
But you can't steal his money if you're
I didn't
angry.
steal his money, Your Honor.
Yes,
I
you
put it
should.
in there.
I don't believe
If
you.
anybody stole it, it's his
I don't
son.
believe you. I don't believe that somebody that after spending 2 months cleaning up somebody else's crap, you know, painting and cleaning and getting people over there and going to the dumpster and making 10 trips to the dumpster, and all of a sudden he says to you, sorry, babe, when I come out, it's over. And you say, all right, sweetheart, I'm going to take this money. I'm going to cash this check. I'm going to leave it all for you. You know, just take what I think is mine. You took what you thought you were entitled to. You can't do that. Things didn't work out. They didn't work out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, there are women who spend 25 years cleaning up after a man, and they end up with nothing. It only took you 2 months to end up with nothing.
And later today,
What kind of drugs were you abusing?
Meth.
That's serious stuff.
Very serious.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Russell says his ex-girlfriend, Patty Haig, stole his personal belongings and money while he was in jail. Patty claims everything she took was with Brian's permission.
Now, are you keeping the place neat?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm attempting to as best I can with 2 men there.
What does that mean? Are you suggesting to me that men are innately slobs?
I don't know if all are, but we are.
Why? You don't look like a slob, Mr. Russell. Look how nicely you're dressed. Got a nice shirt, you got a nice tie. Your son's well-dressed. He's got a nice, clean shirt on. His hair is cut. As far as I can see, he doesn't have any piercings or anything else that I'm looking at, right?
I would consider my house very clean. If you walked in, you'd say it was probably so-so.
After I got done with it.
Yeah, well, didn't work out. Listen, there are women who spend 25 years cleaning up after a man, and they end up with nothing. It only took you 2 months to clean up after your man to end up with nothing. Do you understand?
Yes.
You got to give him back his money. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,800. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think he's a little bit upset about his son not being there and us not being back together.
His grades were bad, but he actually improved them. He got 2 A's and 2 C's his last report card.
He doesn't clean up after himself. All I asked him to do was like pick up after himself.
I was kind of dirty, but I was probably doing 300% better than I usually do.
Next time when I meet someone and I do fall in love, to be careful. Don't leave all your possessions and everything in their control. Be a little more careful and watch your money.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hall versus Smith. Step forward.
Harriet Hall is suing the mother of her grandchild, 22-year-old Allie Smith, for the cost to care for her children after she failed a court-ordered drug test.
Miss Hall, you have a son.
Yes.
Your son made a baby with this lady.
Yes.
This lady had a child from another relationship.
Yes.
You get a call from this lady who says, listen, they're going to take both my kids because I had a positive drug test. Is that right?
Yes.
And would you help me out and take my children because otherwise they're going to go into foster care?
Yes.
You say okay. And you took both her children, your grandchild and her other child. How old?
2.5.
How long did you have the children with you?
Till March 19th. 4 months.
For how many? 4 months.
4 months.
You want Miss Smith to pay support for that child, not your grandchild, but for the other toddler for the 4 months that you had him, boy?
Yes.
And Miss Smith says that there was never an agreement to pay you for either of the children, so she has no obligation to pay you. Is that your defense?
Yes.
You don't have to have an agreement with her.
She didn't ask for any money. She has never asked me for any money until last month when I got this thing in the mail saying that I owed her money.
You mean she never asked you for any support for
Never.
the child? What month did your 2 children go to live with Miss Hall?
December 6th of 2006.
What kind of drugs were you abusing?
Meth.
That's serious stuff.
Very serious.
Did you go into a residential drug treatment program?
No, ma'am. I went to outpatient treatment. I've been clean now for 13 months.
You working?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Great. Your 2 children with you?
Yes, ma'am.
You living on your own?
Yes, ma'am.
Who takes care of the children when you're working?
I have a daycare provider.
All that sounds right to you?
No.
You mean she's not working?
She is working.
She's taking care of her children? They live with her?
Yes.
She has her children in daycare when she's working?
Yes.
So what doesn't sound right to you?
That she wouldn't pay.
Well, I'm not talking about paying. I'm talking about the fact that 13 months later, she seems to be doing very well, right?
Yes.
Why all of a sudden, after 13 months, are you suing her?
Because she's working now and she can help pay me back for the support that I did on Aiden.
Okay. That's reasonable. Did you ever ask her to help you with the support?
Yeah, she said she would the day that I got the kids.
Well, she was pretty messed up. She was using very, very heavy drug. When she got the children back, did you discuss with her finances?
No, I haven't.
So when for the first time since she got the children back, was she aware of the fact that you wanted her to pay you back for some of the expenses for the child? Did you just serve her with a summons?
Yes.
Why?
Because I felt that she owed for the kids. I took them on extra visits for her. I've done a lot
I
for
understand
her.
that, but weren't you seeing your granddaughter?
Yeah, but she wouldn't let me have her anymore. Now just my son. I have to take my son to pick her up. I can't see her.
Why?
Because she doesn't like me, I guess. I don't know.
Why?
Because she would come to my house and she would throw little fits. She would call people and tell them that I had people living with me that I didn't have living with me. The only reason she did this with the summons is because I wouldn't let her son claim our daughter on his taxes.
You mean for last year?
For 2007. I had them for 9 months out of the year, and I didn't think that
Does he pay support?
Yes, he does.
How much does he pay?
About $400 a month.
Why don't you work something out with him so that 1 year you can claim him, 1 year he can claim him?
Maybe, yeah.
Well,
we
doesn't that
never
sound
even,
reasonable?
me and him discussed it, and we were fine with it. It was when she come over and said that Jean was upset with me, so I don't know.
Ms.
Me and
Hall,
him would discuss it.
Your mistake is that I wouldn't have served her with a summons, since clearly you care for your granddaughter. You wanted to help her out, but you also wanted your granddaughter in a safe place. So that's what you're supposed to do as a grandmother, to make sure that your grandchild is safe. The fact that you took her other child was very nice of you. Why didn't your other child go with your mother?
Because my mother couldn't take them.
Couldn't take even one of them?
No.
Okay.
And also, she was my son's grandmother before my daughter was even born. If he walked into this courtroom today, he would definitely call her grandma.
Well, she took care of him.
Right.
Okay, you do understand that whether or not you had an agreement with her, you owe her for your son's necessaries. She's not seeking any money for your daughter,
right,
but only for your son. So whether or not you had an agreement with her, the law says that you have to pay her for some of the child's necessary expenses.
Okay.
Now, where is the father of that child?
He's not in the picture.
Okay. How much do you claim that you spent on this child?
For rent.
Forget rent.
$2,200.
Tell me what it was for.
Okay, rent was $750.
Forget rent.
And December.
Listen to me. Did you move?
Okay. Yes,
you
I
move?
moved from my mother's to my sister's because we didn't have enough bedrooms at my mom to deal with the kids. So I moved in with my sister.
You were living with your mother?
Yes, because I was taking care of her.
Tell me the living situation in your sister's house with you and the children. Where did everybody sleep?
Okay, Aiden had a bedroom upstairs, and Addison and I had a bedroom together upstairs, and we had use of the washer, the dryer, the kitchen.
Just a second. How much did you pay in check or cash to your sister each week or month?
Each week, I paid $100.
Or $400
a month.
And how many months were you with your sister?
We were there 103 days.
How many months were you
4.
with your sister? So you paid her a total of $1,600. Is that correct?
It wasn't exactly 4 months. It was a week short of 4 months. Aiden was there 15 weeks. So what she paid for him was $750. What she paid total would have been $1,500.
Okay, so $1,500. And you are ascribing half of that to her child?
Well, he had one room, she had one room.
I don't care. It's 3 people. What difference does it make?
I rented out by the room.
I don't care. That's a judgment that she made. They could have all stayed in one room. Okay, so
Not
let's
according
say...
to DHS.
Well, you certified as a multiple dwelling? Are you certified? Is your home certified as a multiple dwelling? Right. So that's $500. What else?
Then in December, I didn't have protective daycare until January. So I paid for daycare out of my pocket. And for December, we turned in for $380, and they paid $190 of it.
How much?
For Addison's, but they did not pay Aiden's $190.
They did not?
No.
Why?
Because he was not my grandson.
So that's $690. What else?
Okay, and then mileage for daycare.
Forget it.
Okay. And diapers and miscellaneous was $320.
Yeah.
And then we bought clothes and shoes for him and stuff. We estimated $160.
Where are the receipts for that?
I don't bring no receipts for clothing and shoes.
So far, she owes you $990.
And then we bought toys and books and stuff for him.
Did you return them to her when you gave them back?
We gave him some of the
No.
toys and some of it, not all of it.
If you didn't give it back to his mother, then you don't get paid for it.
Yeah. But I gave her clothes and shoes and all that stuff that I bought.
Well, show me the receipts.
I didn't bring receipts.
Well, this is what you're supposed
Part
to
of
bring.
them were gifts for Christmas.
Don't shout out. I believe that the defendant owes you some money for taking care of her child. It is apparent to me that some of the money that you would like to claim that she owes you was money that was spent jointly for both children. You were going to take your granddaughter to daycare anyway, so the mileage is ridiculous to try to have her pay for. She's a woman who has put her life back in order. She's been self-supporting. She takes care of her 2 children. How much do you pay for daycare?
I don't. It's provided by the state.
Great. How much do you earn?
About $450 every 2 weeks.
Okay. Plaintiff is seeking $2,200 from you. I think that that's excessive.
Very.
I think that for rent and food stuff, your portion of that should be $990. And that includes a portion for rent, some for food, clothing, and miscellaneous stuff. Really comprises the rest, and the daycare.
With the clothing, toys, they didn't bring anything home with him. The only thing that they brought home with him, when I got them back on March 19th, I sent him with a basket of clothes, and that was exactly what they brought back. The basket of clothes with his movies in the bottom. It looked as if they never even touched it, and that was all that had come home with him.
I'm sure that they did touch it because he went to daycare, and I'm sure if he was not clean and well kept and everything else, the daycare would have registered a complaint, which they did. But that's what you are. Okay. And I think that it's great that you're in a position now to help her.
Right.
And I'm sure you thank her and are grateful that she kept the kids out of foster care, both of the kids out of foster care. And it's wonderful that you put yourself back together. So judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $990. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
24-year-old Amber Cyrus is suing the father of her child, 23-year-old William Riddick, for the balance on a car she charged on her credit card and for money taken from their daughter's bank account.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, it's case number 474 on the calendar, the matter of Cyrus versus Riddick.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Miss Cyrus, he used to be your boyfriend. He's not your boyfriend anymore. He's a boyfriend with whom you made a baby.
Yes.
And you claim in addition to being an ex-boyfriend, he also is a debtor, that he owes you for 2 loans.
Yes.
Mr. Riddick says he doesn't owe you for anything.
Mm-hmm.
How old's your baby?
She will be 4 in May.
Did you and Mr. Riddick ever live together?
Yes, we did.
From when to when?
Probably from the beginning of 2002 until he went to college in 2004.
Okay, tell me about the first loan.
The first loan, he went away to college after we had our child, and about 9 months later, around April, he contacted me about coming back home. He didn't want to purchase a plane ticket. He found a car out there that he liked. And I let him know, like, why don't you just come back first and maybe we can look for a car for you out here and do it better out here. What if the car breaks down on your way back? He said, no, it's a car he really likes and he wants to fix it up. And plus, it will be cheaper and he can help me with the baby by picking her up from daycare and so on and so on. If we had 2 vehicles, it would be better.
Were you working at the time?
Yes.
Were you living independently?
I was living with my mother at the time.
So, go ahead.
I explained to him the interest rate on it because I don't have that kind of cash. The interest rate on the card that I can put it on is like 19%, which is a ridiculous interest rate to even pay that much money on. And I was like, and I still want to buy a house within a couple years. You know, if I do let you borrow it, it needs to be paid off. Yeah. So I finally let him borrow the money.
How much?
$3,600.
And you took that off the credit card?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he make the payments?
When he came back, he made a couple payments, random payments between September 2005 and July of 2006.
How many payments did he make?
He only made a total of 5.
And in what amount?
One was an amount 75, 30, 142, 117, and $40. A total of 404.
That's odd numbers. Why?
I took what I could at the time.
What do you mean you took what you could?
Well, because he doesn't keep a job that long, so whenever he was working and not going to school, he would give me money. So when he
Were you living together?
No, when he came back from college, we were not living together. He had another girlfriend. We've been not together. We've been back and forth. But
when he came back, he had another girlfriend, and you had given him money for a car?
I gave him money before he came back from college.
And after he came back, he found a new girlfriend?
About a few months later, yes, he did. Well, he was talking to her. I found out now while he was away at college. So.
Is that right, sir?
No, ma'am.
You didn't have a new girlfriend after you came home?
No, ma'am. It took a while afterwards.
How long afterwards?
It was about 6 months till when we came to the realization.
Fine. So 6 months later, you now had a new girlfriend, and you had a car that she had paid for.
The car was stolen.
I don't care if it was stolen. What difference does it make if it was stolen or not?
Doesn't make a difference.
Who do you think's going to pay for the car?
It was a mutual agreement we had for our family.
You had no family.
At the time we
Family
were trying to work out our relationship.
That doesn't mean you have a family.
Hell not.
It's not a family. You're living in your house, she's living in her house, you just happen to have a baby. That's not a family.
Okay.
That's not even old-fashioned, but that's not a family. It's only a family if it's convenient for your mind, it's a family. Now, you're driving this car. Did you have insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't your insurance pay for the car?
Because the insurance paid $325 for the car.
Yes, and?
Yes, and?
What did you do with the $325?
I put it towards a down payment to get another car. As the story was told, when I was in school, it would have cost more money to ship all my things back from school.
Who cares?
To home.
Who cares? To whose home did you ship your things? To whose home did you ship
When
your
I
things?
first got back, I was at Amber's home.
Listen to my statement very carefully, Mr. Riddick. When you were going to ship the things, where were you shipping them to?
You misunderstood what I said.
No.
It would have cost more money for me to catch a plane and ship my things back home.
Where were you going? To whose home were you going to ship the
Amber
things?
May Cyrus's home.
No. With her mother?
No.
That's where I stayed at before.
Did you come back there after you purchased this car and stay there with her when you came back?
When I first came back, yes. Afterwards, I left.
Just a second. For how long did you stay in her mother's house, sir, when you first came back?
About a week.
All right. And then where did you go?
To my mother's house.
That's better. Now, and when you went back to your mother's house, did you take all your stuff with you?
Majority of it, yes.
Yeah. What's the payoff on the car?
The payoff on the card, I don't have today's payoff. Because due to him not paying child support and stuff, I had to charge my own charges on this card. I only added up the interest that would have accrued for his purchase, because I did use the card.
How do you expect me to figure that out?
I just times the interest by the 2 years that it's been that he owed me.
I can't do that. How much was the whole car? Listen, you're going to complicate my life. I don't disentangle people's problems.
The
Do you
whole car was
understand?
$3,600.
That's not my job. The car was $3,600 and he paid $404. Is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
$3,196. And when did you make your last payment on the car, sir?
I've never made a payment on the car.
She says you gave her $404.
That money that was given was to take care of my child before I was put on child support.
Have you been paying your child support
Yes,
regularly?
ma'am, I have my documents.
Have you been paying your child support regularly?
Yes.
Then can you explain to me why they, according to her at least, they repossessed your truck?
They never repossessed my truck.
Really? For child support?
No.
They take your taxes for back child support?
That's because I was put on, then took off.
Did
so
they
the amount,
take your taxes to pay off child support?
Yes, they did.
Okay, and how much did they take?
$930.
Did you contest that amount, sir?
No, I didn't contest the amount.
Then you must have agreed that you owed $930 in child support.
We had already went to court for the child support, and that's what they told me I had to pay from the day she filed until the current day we went to the
Right.
mediator. So that is what I was owed in child support. It
Correct.
wasn't back payment as if I wasn't working or anything.
No, it was if you weren't paying anything, sir.
Yes.
Let's say this. Let's say they made an order for you September 1st to pay $100 a month, and you hadn't paid child support since January 1st. So they would say, well, if you paid $100 a month going back till January, then you don't owe anything. But if you hadn't been paying any child support, then they're going to say from the date of filing, this is what you owe. Now, had you been paying her child support?
I wasn't paying her directly child support, no.
Well, who were you paying it to?
I was taking care of Kimara.
And how were you doing that?
By supporting her. I had my daughter 3 days a week and taking her to and from daycare.
Who was paying for the daycare?
We were both paying for daycare.
Were you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
In the court order, it was, but not before that. When he was away at college, every time after, until I filed, I was paying the full amount of daycare. That's why I filed for support, because he wasn't helping.
As stated by Amber Cyrus, the original reason she filed for child support was jealousy, in that she wasn't getting her money on the 1st, and she needed it on the 1st. I was giving it to her when I got paid on the 10th. I got paid on the 10th and the last day of the month, and she couldn't wait 10 days to get that money.
My daughter would be out of daycare if I waited 10 days to pay daycare.
But as she stated, she was already paying it, so 10 more days could not have hurt her pockets that much, ma'am.
Maybe not, but she likes the idea of getting it through the court, and I don't blame her, because that has nothing to do with old girlfriend, new girlfriend, or, of course, old car loan that gets stolen.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You'd let him take money out of your daughter's savings account that you put money away for her future so that he could make a truck payment. That's your stupidity.
And later today,
You went over a median in the parking lot and you damaged the car. Who do you think should pay for that?
Not me, I'm not responsible for it.
Why? Did the island move while you were driving?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amber Cyrus says the father of her child, William Riddick, owes for a car she bought with her credit card. Amber also claims William took money from their 4-year-old daughter's bank account.
You also took money from your daughter's savings account.
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
My great-grandmother passed, and I was awarded to go to her funeral. The day of, I got called into work to open the branch because they had a meeting. I was a bank teller, and they were supposed to let me off at 10. The meeting went till 12. When they came back, I just counted my tail out and left. And then I came back. They put me on administrative leave for just walking out. So from there, I got fired. From then, my savings account went to zero, and I needed money to pay my car loan.
So you had a new car that you were paying off?
Yes, ma'am.
Without paying for the old car that got stolen?
The old
that
car
she
wasn't
paid
a
for?
loan.
Yeah, I find it's a loan.
Okay.
I find it's a loan. You're not her husband. If you were her husband and you
I
bought a
don't find it
car,
was
you
a
were
loan.
family and living together, that's one thing. You're away in college, you have a baby, you go to college, very nice. Call her, I want to drive home instead of flying home. It'll be more convenient and it'll save me money. Well, it saved you a whole lot of money. Saved you everything. You didn't pay for an airplane ticket. You didn't pay to ship anything home. She put the money on her credit card and you didn't pay. That's a pretty good deal.
How is it to pay for a decision that you make for your family?
You're not her family. Get over it.
Okay.
You're not her family. You're not any more her family than you are my family, sir. Family
I
is a
didn't lay
unit
down and
that
have a
stays
child with
together. Family, listen, everything has babies. Dogs, cats, fish, guppies, parakeets, they have babies. They don't necessarily have families forever. You don't have a family with this lady. You have a new girlfriend. How many children do you have? Just one?
Just one.
Just one. With her?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a new girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you live with her?
No.
You don't live with anybody.
I live on my own.
Good. That's not a family. Having a girlfriend is not a family.
I didn't say she was my girlfriend.
You just told me I have a new girlfriend.
You said it was my family.
No, I said having a girlfriend isn't a family.
Oh, okay.
Even having a girlfriend with whom you make a baby isn't a family. Unless you live together as a family unit. Then, by some stretch of the imagination, you may be able to call that a family unit. Now, I can't figure out what he owes you with interest, madam. He owes you $3,196 minimally, right? That's without any interest. And
Yes,
if he
ma'am.
hasn't made any payments, add on another $1,000, that's $4,196. And what he's saying is he needed money to pay his car loan, and you'd let him take money out of your daughter's savings account that you put money away for
Yes,
her
ma'am.
future so that he could make a truck payment. That's your stupidity.
I understand that.
Then you deal with your own stupidity. Stop making payments for him.
I will. I did.
Good. You want to know why? The last mistake you should make with him is making a baby. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. He looks like a very nice young man, but he's not ready to commit to you or anybody. He thinks that because he has a child, he has a family. He'll make a couple of families.
Yes.
Right?
I know.
Right. Right. But right now he owes you $4,196.
Thank you.
That's it. Judgment
Thank
for the
you.
plaintiff. That's
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He feels if he has to pay me child support, he doesn't owe me any money.
Hey, women are women.
Hopefully he learned his lessons. I learned mine. So
Vindictive women.
the most important thing to me is my child.
I'm done.
For my future, I'm securing mine and my daughter's finances so we can have a better life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Culp versus Molina, step forward.
21-year-old Krista Culp is suing her ex-boyfriend, 19-year-old Jonathan Molina, for damaging her car when he ran over a cement island.
Miss Culp, you and Mr. Molina had a relationship. You lived together for a period of time. You claim he moved out owing you rent. And prior to his moving out, short time before he moved out, he had an accident with your car and damaged it. Let's deal with the car first because the car is the easy thing. Mr. Molina, you did in fact borrow Miss Culp's car to go to the store to run an errand. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And while you were there, you went over a median in the parking lot. Is that correct?
Yes, I went over what do you call it? Island.
Whatever. Something higher than the sidewalk, right?
Right.
And you damaged the car, right?
Yes.
Who do you think should pay for that?
Not me. I'm not responsible for it.
Why? Did the island move while you were driving?
No,
Then who should be responsible for it, Mr. Molina?
not me.
Well, I'm asking you, who?
She should.
Now explain why, sir.
Because she gave me full permission to borrow her car.
Right. She didn't give you permission to drive it over an island. She gave you permission to go to the store for an errand. You had an accident because you drove carelessly. I mean, unless you're telling me this is a movable parkway. You drove carelessly, therefore it's your fault. Now, Mr. Molina, you have to repeat after me, sir. How old are you?
19.
It was my fault.
It was not my fault.
Whose fault was it, Mr. Molina? Mr. Molina,
Yes, ma'am.
were you driving?
Yes, I was.
It was your fault! Did I say it loud enough so that maybe you understand it at age 19? At age 19, you shouldn't be in a relationship with somebody. How old are you?
21.
You have children?
Yes, Your Honor.
How many?
2.
He's too young for you. You have children?
No.
You should be out playing hopscotch or something. But you owe her to fix the car, Mr. Molina, because when you have an accident with a car that you borrow because you're driving recklessly and go over an island that is not moving, it's your fault. And if she had no insurance on the car, she has to have it fixed. Do you have insurance?
I have insurance, but it's liability insurance.
She doesn't have collision insurance. That means you have to pay for it, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. How much will it be to fix the car?
The estimate was $2,251.29.
And what kind of car is this?
It's a J30 Infiniti 1994.
So the car is 13 years old.
Yes, it's my only transportation.
Let me take a look at that. This isn't the kind of estimate that you usually get from a place.
That is from Tom's mobile mechanic. He just came over yesterday and estimated it because he had to come to my apartment because the car is undrivable.
Okay, so you have to fix the car.
Yes.
And he wants $2,251.29, and I think he'll do it for $2,000. Now, let's talk about the rent. You say he moved out owing you some money for rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
Whose name is on the lease?
Both of us.
And tell me, under what circumstances did he move out?
He's supposed to pay me $400 each month.
Under what circumstances did he move out?
Owing me about...
No. Did you ask him to leave, or did he just leave?
Yes, Your Honor, I asked him to leave after I found out he was cheating on me.
So you asked him to leave?
Yes.
Okay. And he left?
Yes.
And in what month did he leave?
It was the middle of October.
Is that right, sir?
Yeah.
Did he pay October's rent?
Not all of it.
How much did he pay?
$50.
Did he give it to you directly?
Yes.
$50?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did he pay September's rent?
He paid half.
How much did he pay?
$200.
Now, Mr. Molina, you have a defense, and you say that you work, correct?
Yes. And the place I was working at, they were cutting my hours, and I was working like 21 to 26 hours, and every check that I would get, I would hand it over to her.
That's what you say.
And it was like 2-something, and I would have no money. Every week, I would just hand over my check, give it to her.
That's what he says. He says that every week he worked, he would hand you his check, and you would give him gas money. Is that correct?
No, Your Honor. He would hand me cash. His check was for $80. He kept $30 for gas, gave me $50. That was for October.
Okay, so how much did he give you for October? He worked every week in October, so he couldn't have given you just $50.
Your Honor, he doesn't give me every check. He says that he gives me every check. Sometimes he only works 20 hours a week.
Was he working more than that when you decided to lease an apartment with him?
We had both just gotten new jobs to get the apartment together, and it's not my fault he only works 20 hours a week. He could have got a different job or asked for more hours.
How much did you give her in September for the rent, sir?
None.
She says for September she got $200.
I thought you were talking about October, but September I gave her $200.
And in October?
I only gave her $50.
And what did she say when you gave her the $50?
She's like, where's the rest of it? I'm like, well, my hours are cut, you know? There's nothing I could do. I asked my manager, can I have more hours? You know, I have stuff to pay, this and that. And they didn't like me. They just cut my hours.
Ms. Cope, where were you living before you moved in with Mr. Molina and your 2 children?
I was living with my best friend.
And how much rent were you paying?
I wasn't having to pay rent.
How long did you live with your best friend?
For about 1.5 years.
And what is the rent you are paying now?
$779 a month.
And how much child support do you receive?
I don't receive any child support.
Why not?
Because both of the fathers to my children, they were in prison, so.
They were what?
In prison, incarcerated.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a secretary for a law office.
What are your earnings?
$10 an hour.
How are you paying the rent?
I get welfare.
How much do you get from welfare?
$500.
$500 a month towards your rent?
Yes.
What else do they pay for?
They give me food stamps, about $300. That and my work is my only income.
So that your rent is really $279 a month?
Yeah, you can say that.
I am saying that.
Okay.
Your rent is $279 a month. So in the month of September, he gave you $200. So in September, your share of the rent was $79.
Yes. Well,
and in October, he gave you, according to you, $50. So that sort of evened it out. The government was paying most of the rent, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to stay in that apartment, is that correct?
Yes.
Good. Mr. Molina owes you to fix the car. The rent the government is paying for. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
19-year-old private investigator Katherine Harrison is suing her ex-boyfriend, Claude Johnson, for his share of a vacation and an assault.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 165 on the calendar, the matter of Harrison versus Johnson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Ms. Harrison, you and Mr. Johnson had a relationship that is now over.
Correct.
According to your complaint, some time ago you took a vacation together. You were supposed to split the cost of the vacation, and he still owes you for some of that bill. In addition, after you separated, there was some altercation involving Mr. Johnson, and you claim he assaulted you. You want to be compensated for your pain and suffering as a result of the assault. Mr. Johnson says what was left over from the vacation was a gift, because you said that you would take care of the extra expenses, and that he never assaulted you. As a matter of fact, it was quite the other way around. So, when did this love affair start, and when did it terminate?
We had met in February of '04 while working together, and we had broken up this March.
And when was the vacation that you took?
in February of 05.
Where were you going?
I had purchased Lakers Piston tickets for him for Christmas. So we had went to Detroit, we had watched the game, and we had agreed before we left, you know, everything would be 50-50.
Were you living together at the time?
Yes, we were. So we had went to Detroit, and then we had went to Canada for a few days after that.
Well, is it the Detroit trip or the Canada trip that he owes you for?
It's a combination of all of it. There's actually, the total trip balance was $1,468. Therefore, his half of that would have been $734, which he's paid $354.50 and owes $379.50 as the remainder.
So let's take care of that first. Yes?
She's not telling the truth. I was told that, you know, we would go to the game. You know, she said she's going to buy me the tickets. I'm like, okay. She's talking about she wants to go to Canada to go gamble. I'm like, you know, I don't have the money to go gamble in Canada. I really don't want to go. She says, well, we'll put it on my credit card. You know, don't worry about it. You know, it'll be fine. So I'm like, okay, let's go, you know. I agreed to pay her money for the trip to Detroit, you know, at the game and everything. But then, you know...
Well, how much was that part of the trip, Mr. Johnson?
Well, the tickets were free. She bought them.
No. Listen to me.
Okay.
How much was your half of the trip to Detroit?
I really don't know. I paid for the hotel, drinks, food, stuff like that.
No, just a second.
Okay.
Was that all put on her credit card?
Well, I gave her the cash. I don't know if she paid with her credit card or whatever. That's on her.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I have receipts, credit card statements, bank statements from all of the money that was spent. Definitely.
How much was spent from Detroit? I'm just curious.
From Detroit, we've got a charge of $64.59 in the hotel, and then he had bought some drinks at the game itself. That was
well,
all
that's a
from Detroit.
small amount of money. Is that the only bill from Detroit?
That's the only bill from Detroit.
That's what I'm saying.
But he's paid,
just a second.
He's paid $354.
Just a second. Okay. When I say just a second, that means you have to stop. The only two bills from Detroit were a $65 bill from a hotel and a couple of drinks. Yes. Is that right?
I guess, according to her bank statements. I don't
then what did you give her $354 for, sir?
I don't recall how much money I gave her. We had other things going at the time, you know, so, you know, like, it gets really complicated.
I'm going to uncomplicate it. You owe $379.50 for the rest of the vacation you took together. You did go, and if you didn't want to go, you should have said, if you want to go to Canada, go alone.
But it was...
I'm speaking. Did you go to Canada?
Yeah, it was a gift on her.
I'm speaking. I just answer my question.
Okay.
Don't volunteer anything unless I ask you to volunteer, which will be never. Did you go to Canada?
Yes, I did.
Did you sleep in a hotel?
Yes, I did.
Did you eat food?
Yes.
You owe a $379.50.
Oh, man.
Now let's get to the assault. You broke up in March of 2005, and when do you allege this assault took place?
June 13th.
Tell me about it.
I had went over to the apartment which we previously had shared together to talk about some previous matters that were unhandled.
What?
It was money for rent that was due after I'd moved out that he had not paid, and then I in turn had to pay.
Well, what was your agreement as far as moving out and continuing to pay the rent?
The agreement was that he was going to take care of the rent since he did not wish to leave the apartment, which I would have, you know, stayed if he would have left and taken care of everything myself. Okay. Anyhow, he had moved in some roommates as well.
So you went over there because you were held responsible for what month's rent?
For the month of June, as well as the first 2 months we had lived there were half price, so they violated the lease, so we had owed that money too. It was $1,300 that I had to pay.
Why did you pay it?
Well, I was buying a house, and I could not have that eviction on my credit if it was not paid.
Were you evicted from that apartment?
No.
Did you stay to the end of the lease?
No. The lease still isn't up yet.
All right. So in June, you went to see him about some money that you thought he owed you.
Well, I had went over, and he was actually outside already, so he had just come up to the car. So we were talking through the window.
It's not true. She's lying.
Have you ever been in court before,
no,
Mr.
I have
Johnson?
Not. No.
Since you have not, I'm going to give you a kindergarten course about court, especially mine. One party testifies, I ask questions. When she's finished testifying, you will be given an opportunity to testify.
Okay.
We don't shout out. This is not a discotheque. This is not a give and take. This is an organized, orderly process. Do we understand each other, sir?
Yes.
I don't have to explain this to you again, do I?
No.
Good. Keep going.
Okay, so he was speaking to me through the window of the car, and he was under the assumption that he thought I had taken money from him earlier that morning when I went to get my mail. So he kept bringing that up, you know, well, I don't care about all this money. Where's my $14? So he reaches in the car, takes my purse. I grab a hold of it before he gets it completely across me because I had it right here at my side. So when I wouldn't let go, he starts hitting me in my chest. And so in turn, I let go of the purse. So I got out of the car and, I was asking him, can I have my purse back, whatever. And he's pushing me and shoving me, pushing me, back from him. So, he goes into the house and gets away from the situation. So immediately I had dialed 911 to, reach the police. And they went to the door, and got him outside and talked to him as well. I have the police run log as well.
I want to see a hospital record.
Okay, well, I didn't go to the hospital.
Doctor's report.
I didn't go to the doctor.
Get over it. Whatever pushing and shoving was done over the pocketbook was no big deal. Don't make it into a big deal. Then I begin to doubt your veracity. We understand each other?
Sure.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have you paid it back?
No. And as a matter of fact...
Are you on drugs?
No.
Then just answer me. I said if you paid her back. The answer is no. One no will be sufficient.
And later today...
Let him take the car so that he could go to school and look for a job. That's what you're supposed to do. You're his mother. How many children do you have?
I have 2.
Well, it seems to me this one is doing okay, which means that your mother probably did something right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Harrison says ex-boyfriend Claude Johnson owes for a trip to Canada and for an assault.
Did you think that she took money from your house?
I know that she took money from my house.
And how do you know that, Mr. Johnson?
Well, I do have 2 roommates. My roommates were sleeping. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning when she came in my house. In the meantime, I had money on my table in my room.
$14.
$14, but it was all the money that I had at the time. So, it's like $1 million to me because it's all I had. Anyways, I go downstairs. I talk to her about whatever, the money situation, the rent, da-da-da. Okay, she says to me, how much money do you have? I'm like, well, not enough,
Well, you're living there. Why don't you have money for the rent,
well,
Mr. Johnson?
This is about, I have got money, like I said.
Listen to me, sir. Don't double talk me. It's June. Where's your rent money? You and your 2 sleeping roommates.
We had the rent money for the month, right? The thing is we were being charged extra money for the rent. Instead of being $600, we were being charged $1,200. In all reality, we were moving. She just didn't know it yet, so I wasn't going to give her anything, Now.
So you're going to stiff her on the landlord?
No. I was going to pay it. It's big. It's hard to explain it. It would take a long time. Anyway, let's get to the point. She goes upstairs. She says, I'm going to go look for some money.
Have you? And so she took your $14. You went upstairs. You didn't see your $14, so you figured it was in her purse. When she came back later, you went into the purse. Fine.
Fine.
Who paid the landlord the $1,200?
She did.
Have you paid her back?
No. No. And as a matter of fact...
Are you on drugs?
Huh?
Are you on drugs?
No.
Then just answer me. I asked you a simple question. I said if you paid her back. The answer is no. One no will be sufficient.
The answer is no. I shouldn't have to pay her back. Yeah.
Well, she didn't file a counterclaim. I'm just curious. Why didn't she ask for that money?
I was told I should handle that in the local Franklin County courts.
That's too bad. In any event, he owes you $379.50 for the vacation, which he agreed to pay for, and he did not completely pay for. I don't believe he assaulted you to any extent that requires compensation by a court. He was angry, but I don't believe he hurt you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $379.50. And Ms. Harrison, let me explain this to you. You should thank your lucky stars that you got out when you did.
Yes, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's an evil person. That's why. I don't know why she did it.
He said that he would have the means to pay me back.
She wanted to stay at the Hilton. She wanted to go all out.
That's just the way I roll.
After we broke up, in March, it turned into a loan.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cowan versus Cowan. Step forward.
Diane Cowan is suing her son, 23-year-old Kenneth Cowan Jr., for car payments and for stealing her tax refund from their shared bank account.
Mrs. Cowan, this is your son. Your lawsuit claims 2 things. First, that you had an arrangement with your son wherein he would use your car and make the payments on it while he was using it until he purchased his own car. You claim that with regard to that portion of your complaint, he did make some payments, didn't pay them all, and ultimately you sent somebody down, your fiancé?
Yes.
Down to pick up the car because he had moved to a different state. So you want him to pay some $1,000 that he should have paid on the car. Second part of your complaint, which I really believe, based upon what I read, is what you're complaining about. You just tacked on this car business later, is that you and your son shared a joint bank account. At some point, he withdrew $2,000 from that joint bank account, and he withdrew that money, which was from your tax refund, because you claimed him as a dependent for last year. And he says he's entitled to that money because he was going to file his own tax return as a single individual, but since you had already claimed him as a dependent, he couldn't claim himself, so he took the $2,000 because he said you weren't entitled to it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I correct, Ms. Cowan, that but for the withdrawal from the bank, we wouldn't be bothering with any money he might owe on the car?
No, we had made a verbal agreement, and I told him that once he took the vehicle to Texas, that he would be responsible for the payments.
Did you have that agreement with your mother?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Fine. At that time, were you going to school, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you also working?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working full-time or part-time?
Part-time.
Who was supporting you?
I was on academic scholarship and receiving money from Pell Grants.
Did your mother send you any money?
She may have given me a total of $500.
Okay. Is it correct, Ms. Cowan, that for the year 2004, your son was basically self-supporting?
No.
Well, how did you support him?
Okay, by me being a disabled veteran, it took care of his 2 years of college.
Just a second.
Okay.
You're being a disabled veteran and the government picking up part of his tuition means that we supported him, not you. Is it true that he was either self-supporting or on scholarships and or Pell Grants that he's going to have to return?
Yeah, he was on Pell Grants, but I supported him as far as sending monies for groceries or if he ran short.
How much money did you send him for the year 2004?
I would say over $2,000.
Show me.
I don't have it as far as monetary back. Most of the time I would always deposit it in my account because we shared account.
I have bank statements showing to where there were deposits made on the account, and these are the only cash deposits on the account are ones that I made.
How many times did you withdraw money from this account, Mr. Cowan?
Very rare, maybe once a semester, if that.
So this was primarily your bank account, that you used this bank account to pay your bills?
Yes.
Okay. You have a copy of your tax returns from last year, sir?
Yes, ma'am. My W-2s and my tax return.
So you had an adjusted gross income of a little over $5,600.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your statement, if I believed you, which I don't, at most you sent your son $2,000.
Right.
Then you were not entitled to claim him as a deduction because you didn't contribute more than 50% of his support. You were not entitled to claim him as a deduction.
Yes, but according to VA, if I had not claimed him as a dependent, then they would not have taken care of his bills. You know, I'm not a...
Just a second. Let us say that because of some regulation, you were required to claim him as a dependent, even though you did not contribute more than 50% of his support. Let's say that that's true. Then what you should have done was discuss it with your son and say, listen, for the purposes of the VA, so that you can continue to have all your classes covered or whatever percentage the VA covers, I have to claim you as a dependent, but I'm going to give you the $2,000. What would have been wrong with that?
Well, I agreed to that. And
so then why are you complaining that he took the $2,000 out of your account?
Because it was the procedures that he took. Now, he know normally there has not been a time that I have denied him of anything.
So you didn't like the fact that he did it in a sneaky way?
That's right.
Okay. She says she didn't like the idea that you were sneaky about it. Well, I think, Ms. Cowan, one of the reasons he might have been sneaky about it was because when he filed his tax returns, he filed them as an independent, and then he was told later that he was denied his refund because you had already claimed him as a dependent. Had your mother discussed the fact that she was going to claim you?
She had said she was going to try to claim me to recoup some money that I hadn't paid her on a car payment. She told this to my uncle.
Oh, well, I don't want to hear about the car payment. Listen to me, Ms. Cowan. As far as I'm concerned, you've got a son that's doing the right thing. If you had a car and you let him take the car so that he could go to school and look for a job, that's what you're supposed to do. You're his mother. How many children do you have?
I have 2.
Okay, well, it seems to me this one is doing okay, which means that your mother probably did something right.
Yes, ma'am.
Should have done the right thing. Shouldn't have made this situation so mucky. Ms. Cowan, irrespective of what he did, you're still his mother, and I sometimes wonder whether I would have, I don't have to wonder, I would not have pursued this matter in court. I would have said to him, it's not the right thing to do. What's your first name?
Kenneth.
It's not the right thing to do, Kenneth. You shouldn't have gone behind my back and taken the $2,000 out of the account. I was prepared to give it to you, but you shouldn't have just taken it. I'm not so sure that you were prepared to give it to him, because according to you, he owed you some money on this car nonsense. Can't tell you how many cars I bought my children. If you had not claimed your son as a dependent, what would have been your refund?
I would have gotten $1,913 from that.
And how much would you actually get?
$29.13.
Yes, sir.
When I asked my mother for her tax return, I was going to return whatever she didn't get for claiming me. She sent me a tax return that said she only got $300 for me, which was false.
But you got $1,000 for you.
Right.
Is that what you want, sir?
Yes.
Then you have to give your mother back $1,000 because you took out $2,000 from her account.
No, I was supposed to get $2,000 back, and I was unable.
Listen to me. What your mother is saying is she was required by the VA to claim you as a dependent in order for you to get certain benefits. So, although if you filed for yourself as an independent, you would have gotten $2,000, if she didn't file for you as a dependent of hers, you wouldn't have gotten other benefits which far outweighed that $2,000. Are you following me?
Yes, ma'am.